Welcome to the Rachel Varga podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Varga, double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist since 2011 with over 20,000 rejuvenation procedures performed. I'm an international clinical trainer for other physicians and nurses as well, celebrity skin expert, having been featured on some of the world's top proactive aging podcasts, and much, much more. Learn more at rachelvarga.ca and enjoy today's episode. Welcome everyone to today's live recording right here on the Rachel Varga podcast. In today's episode, we are discussing our top tips for, you guessed it, being a radiant human. Radiance is a theme on the show for helping us cultivate inner and outer beauty together. You can't really show up and be good looking and then open your mouth and it's just, nonsense or negativity coming out. So in order for us to show up and be energetically magnetic and to really live the life of our dreams and have the body and hair, skin, and nails of our dreams, there's some key things psychologically, energetically, and that we can really do to structure our lives in a radiant way and have beautiful exchanges with those that we work and connect with. So the reason I said radiance is a theme on the show for helping us, not just you, because every time I have wonderful guests here on the show, I make beautiful connections, like with our guest today, Amy Edwards, and it really fuels myself up too. So I don't just share this information just for you. I'm learning along the way, having hosted over 600 or so interviews so far on the history of the show. So let me tell you about today's guest, Amy Edwards. At the beautiful age of 50, she is the host of the Amy Edwards Show, a podcast to help others transform their lives and become their best, most epic version through more efficient and effective habits, mindset shifts, and radical honesty. Amy is a voice professional with 30 plus years on air radio and has recorded and released 5 albums as a solo rock and roll artist. In her 40s, is the author of 2 books, a Reiki master, and mom to 2 teenage girls. No stranger to life experience, Amy has lifted herself up after 2 divorces, depression, rumination, and more, to continue shining brighter with every candle on her cake. She shares candidly and openly and believes in using her voice to further connect and empower us all. Amy is also the creator and founder of the Best You School, providing simplified systems to help anyone step into an ageless mindset and more youthful glow. With her 2 latest courses, The Ageless Mindset, the ultimate guide to look younger and feel happier, and The Youthfulness Hack, the secret system to reverse aging and create a new radiant you, she continues to stoke the fire of transformation that is her purpose in life. Welcome, Amy Edwards. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Rachel, for having me. And I'm so grateful to be here and be connected with you. And all you said in that intro just so resonates with my heart. I think we're sisters in radiance for sure.
Oh, 100%. You recently had me on your podcast. We had a great time. And this is such a wonderful way to meet other like-minded individuals hosting our own shows. We have so much fun in the process and learn from one another and get each other to think about different things. So the process, everyone listening, you all have a chance to kind of be a fly on the wall and understand sort of how we think. Because Amy and I, we work with a lot of people and we see those that are thriving and living radiantly. And then we also see those who aren't, and we can assist and support them. Mm-hmm. So Amy, the $1 million question. What is radiance to you?
Radiance is, I think youthfulness is a little bit misleading in my course title because it's really about radiance. It's really about that beautiful glow from within, because it doesn't matter how much you do to the outside, really. It doesn't matter what you look like necessarily, but we all know people that we're like, gosh, they just have an energy that is magnetic, that is beautiful. And that is what we're going for. When I say youthfulness, I mean play. I mean embracing life. I mean joy. And it's really about honing those practices that bring us those things, really tapping into the habits that we can use to further ignite our own fire and our own radiance and our own glow that's just going to shine brighter all the time and illuminate the world in the best way possible.
And to add to that, I find that we shine brighter as we age. The more obstacles we overcome, the more confidence we see in ourselves and develop, the more psychological resilience we see how we can adapt and all these things. So I really see radiance. Actually, you mentioned in your bio that you so graciously shared your years of wisdom here on the planet of a beautiful, shining 50-year-old woman who's just stunning. I really find that this starts to cultivate in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. We don't really have it so much in our 20s and 30s. We're still kind of figuring things out, going through life experiences, haven't had kids yet, and you are a mother, and I'm sure that adds as well. So what are some of the key lifestyle practices that you see those living who you would consider radiant?
Well, first off, to your first point, it does kind of come with age, I think. You know, we get more comfortable in our own skin. We get more comfortable voicing our own boundaries, standing up for who we are, knowing who we are. You know, and then along the way, we're invited to make choices. Are we going to choose that path? Are we going to choose the path that really taps into and honors who we are and our own voice once we recognize it? And sometimes, you know, we don't, sometimes we do. And I have continued to choose to do it, like whether it's leaving marriages, you know, when that is a really difficult thing to do, especially with children in the mix. And so I just kept continuing on that path. I choose the path of believing that some of my most radiant, some of my most epic, some of my most amazing days are still to come. I know that for a fact. That is true for all of us if we're willing to really put our minds there. And so that is how I proceed in life. And believing that, you know, it starts so much with our own beliefs, our own mindset. And so those are some of the practices that you were asking about. It's getting in that mindset of not getting carried away with, and I am not perfect by a long shot. I want to just emphasize right now that these are practices for me, and I have to come back to them. And I've gotten a lot stronger in the last, particularly 5 years since my last divorce, but because I've worked so hard. I've made lists, I've shown up for it. But, you know, I still have moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 50 and I don't have XYZ, and this person's 25 and they've got all this going on. And, you know, we can start comparing and taking away from our own story. But we have to have those practices to return to set our mind right. That's what that free course is about. It's about all these little mind tricks that we can do that don't take any time. They don't take any money. They're there for us. And sometimes we just choose not to do them. So how can we get in a better path mentally to set ourselves up for radiance as the years progress? That's at least my view. And that's what I'm constantly guinea pigging with myself, which I think you do too, right? Like we keep testing it out on ourselves. Like, am I really going to walk the walk? Because we could talk about it, but we have to actually live it. We have to actually put it in practice. And that is, I mean, just today I had to do it. Just today I woke up. Last night I went out. I had to work an event and I didn't even stay up that late, but it was later than I usually stay up. And then I drank a ginger ale, which I don't drink soda usually. I don't drink alcohol right now. I haven't had a drink in a long time. And I woke up just feeling like I was hungover. I felt bad. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had these practices to go ahead and lean on this morning. So, and plus then my boyfriend texts from Africa and he's got malaria. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's just, you know, life is going to come at us and throw all these things in the mix that we don't expect. And so do you have those practices solid to come back to and then set your mind right? Because I knew I had this with you today. I wanted to show up as my best self. And here I am, right? I went ahead and did the things I needed to do. I meditated. I wrote some gratitude. I drank tea. I just tapped into, I drank a lot of protein, this like a ton of, vegan protein. And I mean, just those things that we can put in practice that we know are going to set us up for success to feel more radiant. That's that's what it's all about, leaning into our practices that we've honed over time. And they don't have to be that hard. They don't have to be that complicated. But that's where that radiance just starts to build. It's like this foundation, right? It's this foundational thing that we're starting with our mind and our practices. And so that's what I've been cultivating. And people ask me about it all the time. That's why I created these courses. They're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I do stuff to my skin. Yeah, I take really good care of it. That's in the course. But also, I have to set my mind right all the time, or else I am walking down that path that we were talking about of, choosing that life is beat me, life is won, and instead, no, we have to find those ways to continue to choose ourselves, essentially.
Absolutely. And having clear boundaries. I love that you brought that up. You can't please everybody. You really got to protect your energy. And so we're going to be talking about that as well. All right. When you mentioned that you sipped on some ginger ale before bed, I have an alternative for you to try. And this is a perfect plug for today's.
I knew I
Thank
shouldn't
you.
have done it. I knew I shouldn't have done it as I was doing it, but it was like 11. I was tired. Anyway,
Yeah,
we all make mistakes. Live and learn.
it's all
Tell
good.
me the alternative, please.
So today's episode is brought to you by Organifi Superfood Juice Powder Blends. Use promo code Varga and save 20% at Organifi.com/Varga. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this in, a little bit of a cheeky way here is one of my favorite things to do if I want a mocktail. I'll actually take a carbonated mineral water and I'll add the glow formula, which is like a pink lemonade. It's not too sweet. Or I'll add the red juice. And it's so nice. And the cool thing about this is sweetened with monk fruit. It's glyphosate free. It's third-party independent lab tested. They taste delicious. They're the best tasting supplements I've ever tried. And they just make you feel good. And they're full of adaptogens and key nutrients and cofactors to allow your body to do what it needs to do. The Harmony before bed is like a cacao, and the gold is like a turmeric elixir. So those are really nice to help settle. And then for starting the day, I love to start the day off with the pure product here. It's kind of like a not so sweet traditional lemonade flavor, and it helps with mental clarity and digestion. So this is how I love to begin and end my day and have a little bit of a sweet hydration drink throughout the day, because sometimes I find it's hard to get that water quota in just drinking water. So I like to supercharge my water with superfood adaptogens. And they also make excellent protein powders too, because women, we tend to not actually have enough protein in our diet. And by the way, these won't break a fast, the Organifi products, if you are an intermittent faster. And I recommend getting your hands on some, Amy, so that when you have that sweet craving for the ginger ale, which is just going to tank your blood sugar overnight, you're going to wake up groggy because of that blood sugar spike, or if you eat too much carbohydrates before bed, that will do the same thing as well. So thanks to Organifi for sponsoring this show. I love you guys so much. You guys make incredible products. All right. So,
well, that stuff sounds amazing. And you're so right. I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes we're going to do those things that cause our blood sugar to crest, that we realize, oh, okay, I can learn from that. And that's another mental trick right there, if you want, or mental hack, is not beating ourselves up when we do those things, right? So I'm able to say, oh, okay, now I learned that, and now I know, and I can put that into practice next time. It's an awareness and noticing, taking grace on yourself, and then moving forward in the most positive way. So, I'm queen of the reframe, Rachel. And so, like, how can I frame this in a way that's going to serve me, So, like, I just did that right then. Now I know. And I knew against my better judgment to drink that ginger ale last night. I knew, like, as I ordered it, but I was with all these people that were drinking, and I thought, I'm tired. I just want something kind of fun right now. And I almost said water, and then I didn't. And
well,
so,
you don't want
anyway.
to drink water at restaurants anyways, because it's all disgusting tap water. Go for a bottle, in a glass bottle of carbonated mineral water. You can actually get to-go sachets for these things too. So order some proper filtered water, carbonated sparkling mineral water at the restaurant, and then put the sachet in, mix it up, and you can have it to go too. So you're still having a fun drink.
Yeah.
That's just another little life hack.
Totally. And one of my tricks when I'm in that situation with other people drinking is I like make sure that they put it in a fun glass too. Like I'm like, put it in a wine glass, put it in a highball, like make it look like that I'm doing something fun, like I'm having a fun drink, like which you are essentially having a fun drink. So, yeah.
Yeah, these are wonderful daily habits to make. And for myself, I actually don't do very well with alcohol. Now, dry farm wines, that's a great option. Third party independent lab tested, low alcohol. I really don't drink much whatsoever. I was in Napa recently. I went to, one vineyard. And typically when people do a wine tour, they go to 6. I'm like, oh my goodness, how on earth could anyone possibly take in that much alcohol, feel good in the evening, and then wake up rested and then continue to do more wine tours? So really limiting the alcohol, I think, is absolutely key for maintaining a clear mind. And this is a daily habit that I employ as well. Very, very, very minimal alcohol. So the theme is to be as pure as possible. If you want great skin, if you want a slow aging, you want to be able to maintain those clear boundaries. You're not going to maintain clear boundaries if you're under the influence of something, right? That's pretty clear too.
Well, and just like I was just talking about noticing, how things affect you, when you cut it out for a little while, at least I noticed that when I would have a drink, my mood was not as stable throughout the entire week. Like we're talking drink on Saturday, and then on Thursday, I hit, a sort of mental low, and I would feel bad about myself. And since I've cut out alcohol, I am almost 1 year alcohol free, sheerly because life was handing it to me. Life was like, what are you waiting for? And I was like, what am I waiting for? I'm just going to try it, even if you just consider it an experiment. And now I can tell that my mood is so much more stable, all the chemicals in my brain, because alcohol goes right through that blood-brain barrier. And as I'm sure you well know. And so when we cut that out, we really are doing ourselves a huge favor. And it's really been interesting for me to see how much better my intuition operates, how much more stable my mood is. And then as a result, I'm able to implement all the other habits that much more easily that are going to stoke that inner fire, right?
Yes. All right. So I know Dave Asprey's down the road from you in Austin, Texas. I had
I'm
the
going to,
chance to.
he has a book party tonight for his new book.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to that. Yeah.
Fabulous. Tell him I say hi.
I
I'm
will.
actually going to be at the biohacking conference. So for all of you listening, let's do a meetup. I'll be sharing and speaking at the event as well. So it'll be super fun. I pre-ordered my book. The title is Smarter, Not Harder. And I think that that's very telling of how we can function. It's no longer wearing this badge of busyness. So a daily habit that I've noticed people when they work with me, in the clinic or online, and I ask them how they are. And I really notice the differences between those that answer this question in a certain way. Those that say, oh, I'm so busy, just pick the kids up and did this, that, the other thing. I'm so busy. They wear that busyness as a badge of honor. And then I see other people, and then they tell me about how grateful they are for wonderful things happening in their lives. Like the kids did this today. I was able to do this today. It's a totally different way of framing the day when someone's asking you how your day is. So what are some of your favorite daily habits for optimizing life and creating powerful outcomes?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. But first, I want to talk to what you just said. Like that is so, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine a little bit. And I've tried to drop judgments around it when people are like, I'm so busy, and you're like, okay. And I don't know why that just kind of annoys me. I think that I just have some self-work to do on it probably. But I think that whatever we're saying, that's true. So if you're saying things, especially out loud, because that is powerful as hell, then yeah, that's going to be your reality. I am so busy. I am so stressed. This is such a nightmare. All these things that we're saying, okay, then that's what you're going to get. So where can we, again, it's about mental awareness. Like, where can you change what you're saying and maybe reframe it, right? And so that is one of my top habits all the time, is staying really aware of the words that I'm using, especially in relation to myself. And
Nailed
so
it.
that does create more powerful outcomes. Just like you were saying, like it change what you're saying and see what happens. Say, oh, wow, I've had a lot going on and it's been so exciting. There's a reframe right there. Boom, you just changed it. And then you can even go from there and say, wow, I'm so blessed to have all these opportunities. And and you can even say things that you desire. Like, I've really been slowing down a lot and appreciating every moment. I've really been more present. And maybe you aren't, but when you say those things, they're going to start to become more true. And I am a huge proponent, like you said in my intro, I believe in using my voice to further connect and empower us all. I'm all about voice, whether it's been in music, radio, podcasting, however I use my voice, it's about that tool itself. I believe it's such a strong, powerful tool. And that's why I'm so candid and open too about my own life, my depression and divorces and everything else. And I know that there's so much power in that, in the way we say it, in the way we connect with others, and in the magic that it can bring to our own life for those powerful outcomes that we literally have the power to create all the time using our voice.
Absolutely. If I were
So
to
I have
add,
a zillion other habits too that are all in the course or we can get into, but they're just things I've honed over time and things that you talk about that everybody talks about: gratitude, journal, reading, meditation, all
well,
those
I was
things.
actually going to add something else here. So
Yeah,
instead
great.
of saying, my stress or my divorce or my this or that, what I actually want you to do is become a little bit more of an observer in your life, and not saying things like my acne or my skin redness or my cancer, anything like that. Like, really detach yourself, because if you don't, your words are actually going to be perpetuating it. Frame it to, I'm experiencing this right now, and then I'll overcome it, and then I'm going to let it go, right?
I love that so much. You're exactly precisely right. Don't claim it as your own. It is not you,
Just
you
something
know?
you're experiencing. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah, just something you're experiencing. I read another one the other day and I got to thinking about it. And she was talking, I think it was a TikTok, and she was talking about saying things like, when we're laughing or when we're having, like, I'm dead. Oh my gosh, I'm dying. Like those things. And I was like, oh, that one hits a little bit. I think that I could probably, there's always like another spot with room to kind of clean up how we're speaking, not only internally to ourselves, but externally too. And it can be kind of hard. I have one friend and she really said, she claimed the self-deprecating comments as part of her personality, and they're not who she is, and I said, I don't like hearing you talk that way about yourself. I would never say those things to you. And I think she's since worked on cutting them out, but whatever the case, those self-deprecating comments that we can say even as a joke, there's room to cut those out. That's not who we are. That's not our personality. There's ways to be funny without those. So,
Yeah, definitely. The
yeah.
other word, I've been really focusing on wordplay over the last few months, and even the word
Oh.
amazing. Think about this for a second. Maze. Why do you want to go through something that's like a maze? So I never use that word anymore. Or other things that, if you really look at the
Oh
beginning,
my
middle, and end of the
gosh.
word, it's like, okay, so some things we just want to let go of completely, like that word amazing, because it's
Whoa,
kind of
that's
confusing.
good. Ah, like you're saying, we learn all the time on these shows. Oh my gosh. Wow, good one.
Yeah, words
I'm
are
doing it. I'm
super
doing
powerful. Yeah.
it. Yes, yes, they are. It's one of our most powerful tools, and it's such a focus for me. What am I doing with my voice all the time? And I think that the more we hone in on that, the more it can become a habit, and it is going to optimize our life in ways that we can't even quite understand at the time. Just give it again, just give it a shot. Just experiment with it, play with it, see what happens, see how you feel. Are you feeling better? I read something the other day about asking ourselves positive questions. Like, instead of getting down on ourselves, like, why don't I have more followers? Or why don't I have more job opportunities? Whatever it is. You switch it around and you start asking yourself all these questions like, why am I so good at this? Why are opportunities flowing to me? And sometimes I'll just do that in my head I will just be getting ready for bed or something like that. And I'll just start like asking those questions. Sometimes I do it out loud. I think it has more power when we say it out loud. And it's kind of fun just to play with. You can make yourself laugh too, because some of them might be just pretty out there, but you never know what's going to come of it. When I first moved to Austin, had started my current podcast, The Amy Edwards Show. And I moved here and I was starting the show and I started to tell a few people about it. And they were like, Joe Rogan had just moved here. And I can't tell you how many people said to me, "Oh, you'll have to meet Joe Rogan. You're starting your new podcast. You'll have to meet Joe Rogan." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure." I said it sarcastically. I was like, "I'm sure I'm just going to bump right into Joe Rogan. I'm sure I'm going to make friends with Joe Rogan." And then I swear it was just a few months later, and I've met Joe several times, and it was just I laughed at it later. I was like, that is so funny. I said it sarcastically. So, there's always that option too.
I do that too. Sometimes I'll
You do.
speak things, I'll say things like they're going to happen because I know they're going to
There you
happen.
go.
And then they
Right.
happen, right? It's like, and it's also
Mhm.
this mindset of I have beautiful skin. I have gorgeous hair, skin, and nails. I have glassy, dewy, hydrated skin. So,
I
I mean, we
love
could
it.
say these things all we want. We also need to take specific action. So, for
Yes.
all of you
Yes.
tuning in to learn my behind the scenes, where I literally take you into my restroom, this is where my skin camp programs are incredible to allow you to see how I actually wash my face, do different makeup looks, heatless hairstyling. I haven't used a curling iron on my hair in probably about a year and a half. We talk about women's health, biohacking, and I even do my live gerbil rolling demo. So that's super fun. And Spring Skin Camp just launched. Go to springskincamp.com. You get a little bit more off the cuff version of me. I find I'm a little, definitely am a little bit more reserved here on the show than I typically am in real life. And I could just tell Amy and I, if we were to hang out in real life, we would just have an absolute ball.
Absolutely. I totally believe it. And that sounds amazing. Yes, it is about those actions that we do too. So I think all those things that you just said sounds so incredible because people are, maybe I shouldn't use the word incredible. I don't know. Maybe that falls in with amazing. They sound very worthwhile. And I am excited. I want to check that out too. I have a lot of my own practices that I do all the time. One of which is like so simple. It's in my course, and that's every morning. I've done this for probably 30 something years because a friend did it. Is every morning first thing when I wake up, I brush my teeth and I splash a bunch of cold water on my face, and that increases circulation. It gets your glow just kind of kick-started and going, and of course, cold practices, deliberate cold exposure has a lot of benefits, as everybody's been talking about lately. And that's just one that I didn't even realize was having the benefits that it was over time. So that's like one of the simplest things that someone can implement right there, right?
See, I'm the opposite. In my morning, I like to start things off warm. I did years of cold therapy to really
Mm-hmm.
overcome car accident issues, pain, to regulate my nervous system. And now, because my body's in preconception mode, right? Like I really want to become a mother at some point, right? So now I'm in the shift of going to warm. So I'll start off my day with a sauna, do my morning meditation, I'll look out at nature, get grounded, I'll do my EFT, I'll do my affirmations, prayer, all sorts of wonderful things. Get those morning downloads and start the day off on the right foot, not a million miles an hour with the feet, hit the floor and you're running. And then I take a bath. And I actually personally prefer to keep the water a little bit warm on the skin. And it feels nicer to me. The products will, go on a little bit smoother because the skin's nice and warm. But yeah, the splash of cold water. Yeah, if you want to wake yourself up, that is a great way to do it. I love that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, preconception mode. And, I have two daughters who are about to turn 14 and 18. So, we can have these major life changes happen to us that disrupt our routine, and so if you have a child, it's highly likely that your routine will be disrupted, right? And you won't have time for all the things that you're used to doing. And so you have to figure out a new way. Okay, how am I going to continue to foster my own radiance and live my life? when all this stuff is going on, when maybe my child is needing me and, you know, maybe they're sick, whatever, or teething, a lot of stuff, right? And so all those practices, we figure out different ways to implement them. And they're going to come about, you know, you're going to have to mix it up a little bit. And that's okay. I think that when we can be able to give ourselves grace, one of the things that I talk about a lot is doing things more often than we don't. And so if you found yourself not doing any of those one morning because maybe your child needed you, whatever was going on, and then, you know, you can just get a little bit in during the day and a little bit here and there. I think it's, again, that awareness and paying attention to what have I done, you know, in the last few days? How am I feeling? And when you notice that it's been a week since I meditated or something crazy like that, you know, you're able to say, okay, I noticed that I'm out of my practice. Can I do it more often than I don't? And it's returning to those practices and remembering. I have a friend who just today we were chatting and she said, she was asking about meditation and she said, oh, I keep trying to get better at it and I forget. She said, I just forget. And I said, that's okay. Then you get to remember and come back to it. And pretty soon it'll become a daily habit. Pretty soon you'll be like, oh, I meditate every day. It's like brushing your teeth, you know? And then talking about the cold and the hot, I think that we go through phases in our life. I
Definitely.
really do. I think we go through phases where one thing is just serving us at that moment. So no matter what it is that's serving you, it's okay. Like hot, cold, that temperature change. In that book, The Wedge by Scott Carney, he talks a lot about temperature change and the benefits of that. And so sometimes it's not really about how you're doing it, it's about what you're doing. And that would be the temperature change and how it's affecting maybe our circulation, maybe
Our
our nervous
sleep.
system at the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I do a
Sleep.
sauna
Yeah.
and a bath with oil and Epsom salts, I always sleep better. It's like my body's
Mm-hmm.
warm. I slip under the covers. I sleep on an 8 sleep I have for years. And so that's automatically temperature regulating, tracks your sleep. I always notice a difference in my sleep scores if I don't do a sauna or if I don't take a bath and I just wash my face over the sink, brush my teeth, and then jump in bed. It takes me longer to settle. So we can actually get really, really focused and analyze and notice the contrast if we do things and if we don't do things. And just listen to yourself with what your body, mind, spirit, and energy needs to support you at
Big
that
time.
time. So
Yeah.
speaking of spirituality, this is
Great.
kind of important in my opinion. Uh, how do you like to incorporate spirituality in your daily life interactions and with your work? And I know you're a musician, and I'm a guitarist too. I've played electric and acoustic guitar since I was 10 years old. That to me is almost like a spiritual practice, creating music, you know, being in that feminine, also the masculine. Like, don't be fooled. Like, I'll bust out some Metallica and Pink Floyd riffs for sure and have a blast doing it. But how do you incorporate these kind of practices into your life to have fun and also keep you spiritually fulfilled?
Yeah, I think that it's a constant practice. And I think that I am constantly paying attention to what life is showing me at all times. And that's something I just cultivated. I've always been pretty tuned into that, but I would say the older I get, the more I am allowing what I'm being shown and really paying attention to it. And if life is pointing you in a direction, are you going to fight it or are you going to flow with it? And sometimes, yes, we're going to work for our specific goals, but also we're able to pay attention to, all right, this is what life is showing me right now. Like when we were talking about sobriety, I could have gone on and drank and whatever, but instead I said, oh my gosh, life has given me a completely sober partner. Life, I'm talking to people who are experimenting with sobriety. I have 2 teenage daughters that I would like to model this to. What am I waiting for? So I was like, life was really giving me that. Like, here you go. You want to try that? You want something better? You want to tap more into your intuition? Here you go. And and I'm able to say like yes or no, you know, and I went ahead and said, all right, I'll do it. And so I think that spirituality is something that we can weave throughout our entire lives if we're really going to do it. It has to permeate everything, truth and love whatever your spirit calls to, which is love usually. And then how are we going to let that permeate our entire lives? How are we going to come back to that all the time? And I'm not saying we're perfect at it. We're going to have our moments, right? And then you're able to just come back and go, oh, wow, I was really judgy right then, and do the work. And so every single day, I'm in Al-Anon. So I work the 12 steps with a sponsor from there, which is wonderful if you're codependent at all, which I'm a recovering codependent. And so I'm able to constantly turn things over to my higher power, source, universe, whatever anybody wants to call it. And I'm constantly able to tap into those. Now, that's not to say I haven't done other work around that with plant medicines and breath work, a lot of different practices to really get more in touch with my own connection to the divine. So those, I work to have practices to come back to that all the time. And that means every day I read things that are pushing my mind in that direction. I do meditate, I do affirmations. I hone in on those practices that are going to get me more connected with my heart rather than my head, essentially.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Well, I'd love to talk about places in the world where we feel our most radiant. So, has there been a time where you traveled somewhere and you just felt gorgeous? You felt lit up, you felt energized, you felt creative, getting more hits of intuition. Have you ever experienced a place in the world like that?
I think it's almost any time I'm in a really open space, whether it's the ocean, whether it's the mountains. I I can't think of a specific place, but I think when I feel connected to nature, there is something to that for me. Otherwise, I feel radiant when I'm at home and like in my practices. I'm a little bit of a homebody. I love my home. I love the home I've created. I love being with my family. And I love doing my daily practices. So I do love that. And I do live in Austin, Texas. So I really love Austin a lot. And it's a great place if anybody wants to come. We're apparently magnetizing people from all over right now. And I've lived here for almost 30 years. And so, I mean, I'm twice divorced from my kids' fathers. And so I'm here for a while. And I'm really grateful for that. So I'm really, really happy to be in this space. I think sometimes you can visit a place and you're like, oh, my energy feels off. But wherever you go, there you are. And are you still doing the things to play, to make the best of life, to show up as your best self in any regard? So I do try to constantly continue to work on my own practices so I feel good wherever I am. But I'm going to go with open spaces, ocean. Like like you're in California. Personally, I love California. I love San Diego in particular, where you are right now. And yeah, I really like being at the beach.
I love the
Costa
tacos in San
Rica.
Diego. What can I say? However, there are other places that I personally feel better at. And one of them is Sedona. Being in nature, had this beautiful experience with this long fast, summertime. It was so much fun. Just wake up, wash my face in the river, do hiking. It felt very biblical being there in the desert at elevation, in the sunshine, and just fueling myself with really good things and doing a lot of inner work. So Sedona is a beautiful place. Lots of cool things happen there. Lots of great people. I've made wonderful friends there. The other place in the world that I just felt really at home was in Ireland, and also on the ocean on a boat going from the mainland of UK to Europe. And so
Wow.
that's really fascinating. And then I freaking love Florida. Like the vibe and the energy in Florida. It's like you go outside, everyone's got this like slightly perma dew sweat going on, and like
I like that.
tanned and happy with all the sunshine, and there's
Mhm.
palm trees and there's greenery everywhere, there's oceans. You got to watch out for those crocodiles and gators, though. They could sneak up on you. So it's really important to figure out where we feel our best and our brightest and our most radiant, where we are in the world. And it's okay to shift things up a little bit. And there's also people that study this. They study people, they study places in the world where you could actually be at your greatest and most powerful version, which is a really interesting place of study that I'm looking forward to expanding on a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
that's so cool. I went to Hawaii last summer for my 50th with my family, and I have to say that was really a place that I fell in love with, and I was like, I could do this all the time. Like I felt really, really good there. I really enjoyed Hawaii.
yeah, lots of grounding, lots of nature, not lots of sunshine. That sunshine just does so many wonderful things for our circadian rhythm, our
Mhm.
balancing, and when you're on holiday and you've looked after yourself, you're looking fit, you've taken care of your skin, you've taken my skin camps, and you learn all about body peels to like not have lizard skin, so that your skin's looking beautiful, glassy, and hydrated, and smooth. So, speaking of
Lovely.
looking our best on our body and on holiday and all of these things, what role do you think sexuality plays in aging well? And let's go a step further, being a woman and being in our feminine.
Yeah. Well, first off, sexuality. I think being in touch with your own sexuality is a huge part of aging well. And that for me has come with age, for sure. Like I've had to progress and grow as a woman and really tap into my own sexuality. So when I was getting a divorce in 2018, I felt really out of touch with my own sexuality. I felt like I was in my late 40s and just didn't even really know what I wanted. Like if someone asked me, "What do you want?" I didn't really have an answer. I think I was just more in a pleasing the other person space rather than in touch with my own needs and desires. And so when we're in touch with our own needs and desires, we're in touch in a bigger picture. That's like a microcosm for our entire lives, for getting in touch with everything that we want, with who we really are, what we want in life. When we just know this is how I like to be touched. And so you have to explore those spaces. Well, you don't have to, but it helps if you explore those spaces with yourself. And so once the pandemic hit, I was single. And I thought, this could be it. What if this is it? I hadn't dated in 24 years or something like that. And I had to relearn how to date and enjoy it. And also I had to accept that, okay, what if I just played this game with myself? I was like, what if it's just me? What if I'm just with myself and have to please myself and love myself the most? And so I started giving myself those gifts essentially of loving myself so much, telling myself I love you, having sex with myself, and not allowing myself to look at porn, to let my mind wander, none of it. I
I personally
instead,
don't look at porn. I
yeah,
just don't.
I, I'm not trying to judge it. Like I'm sure it can have its place, but if you really want to get in a strong sexuality place with yourself and really understand your own sexuality, then explore your own body with yourself. Really tune into how something feels. And I realized that like I needed some not desensitization, resensitization, like internally. And I had to take time and gentleness with myself too, and not say, oh, why aren't you, doing squirting or doing all these things, that people are talking about in, you're 48 years old. And I had to give myself grace and just say, you are where you are. And ended up, really tapping into my own pleasure practice and sexuality and loving myself so much more in the process and getting in touch with what I really want, which has still been going on. It's still a process for me. Even last year, my significant other and I went to our first play party, which is a very conscious community around conscious kink. Kimmy Inch puts those on. She's absolutely one of my
She's
favorite guests.
hilarious.
Oh, do you know Kimmy?
Yeah.
Yes, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know of her work. She's
Oh,
hilarious.
you know of her work. Yeah, she's incredible. She's a close friend of mine. And so she allowed us to come to this play party, and we both ended up expanding so much further than we expected. And I literally had like a nervous breakdown that day. I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't know what's expected of me. But I pushed myself to go to show. She was like, just show up, Amy. Just show up. And if you want to leave, leave. And I was like, all right, I can do that. And it ended up being one of the most heart-opening experiences of my life. And we did a podcast about it that's on my show that you can go back and listen to. And Justin and I ended up having heartgasms for 3 days, which was wild and intense. And so it just takes time, giving yourself grace, but really the discipline to tap into your own body and your own feeling and honoring how you really feel. And it's an ongoing process for me, like I said, but it's getting so much stronger all the time. And I'm so glad I've done that for myself because I ended up expanding my own self-love, which is a foundation of radiance. Right? Not only the physical act of orgasms are a wonderful foundation to build radiance, and we all want more of those. And so you can give yourself more of those, and in the process, tap into an inner bliss, a connection with God. I 100% believe that that's what that is, and a connection with yourself. And so I think it plays a huge part of our own radiance, and you're going to feel more confident. You're going to feel sexier. You're going to feel more alive. So that is going to reflect in your aging. And I have a big section on that in my course, The Youthfulness Hack, and where I talk more in depth about all of these practices and the tools that I specifically use. I use some from wands and, cutting out anything battery operated or rechargeable, and really you can use your hand, you can use an energetic wand, as one of my friends says, Jade Bryce, or you can, use something glass or crystal. Those are not something that I had experimented with in the past. And so it was really getting in touch with like, oh my gosh, that really opens me up to feeling more in my own body and getting more in touch with my own self, which then reverberates out throughout your entire life. Can you tell I could talk about this for a long time?
Yeah, I love it.
Big believer.
The some of the main chemistry benefits of sexuality and intimacy is oxytocin. And this concept of oxyplay, Dr. Annika Becca has brilliantly coined this concept, oxyplay. So when you're with someone and you're having a wonderful time, you're connected spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically and sexually, really that is one of the most beautiful full expressions of being a human. And when the connection is right, you can't help but be your most beautiful, literally fully fulfilled version of yourself. And so we want to, put boundaries around sexuality and make sure that we're very cognizant of who we are potentially allowing into our fields, especially as women. Another body is literally entering us. And so there's a lot of awareness and there's a lot of consciousness that I like to place around sexuality. And absolutely, I mean, if you're a spiritual human, you're going to be having some really deep sex, which is incredible. And I think this you're going to feel great. There's absolutely something to be said for that post orgasm bliss glow and that nervous system regulation and that feeling of sense of calm and peace that all comes with that are huge components to becoming a beautiful, high vibe, radiant woman, and to explore things and not have any judgments, but explore and see what feels good for you.
Yeah, and it takes time, and you really do have to accept exploring. And I ended up asking one of my friends, and I was like, do you know what you really want? Like if someone asks you, and the more I delved into asking her, this is like one of my best friends, she didn't really know either. And I was like, wow, it's amazing to me that so many women don't know what they really want. And so how can we get in touch with that? And that's what that's about. And that's where that intimacy comes into play when you bring a partner into it. And so now my partner, he'll tell me, like, tell me what you want. And I'm getting better at voicing that, which I'm all about voice. And I'm like, wow, this is one spot where I like I get nervous, or I get scared of being judged, or I feel ashamed, or, like all these other things can come up, and we have to give ourselves grace and say, okay, that's from my religious upbringing, and that's from, years of a relationship that wasn't healthy or whatever it is. And so we can start to unpack, start to open up, and start to feel safe in that environment, which is so crucial, that feeling safe. And for him too, now I'm in a relationship with the best sex that I've ever had in my life. And we keep showing up and doing the work to be in that space and to listen to the other person, and then to give them the space to open up, and he does that for me. And so when you're doing this for yourself, you're more in touch with it, to the point where you are able to invite in a relationship like that, I believe. When we give ourselves, it's the paradox of when we give ourselves what we want, that's when we end up getting what we want. So
Yeah. And really
wow.
being in that very balanced masculine and feminine state, our modern society is really programming us. And, I fell for it too, work like a man, right? In a hyper masculine, because for so long I didn't feel safe. And so that feminine aspect was really, kind of suppressed, unfortunately. And when women feel safe, trust me, the sexual fire, oh my gosh, when a man makes a woman feel safe and loved, guided, protected, heard, all these things, that's when really the true feminine can come out to play.
Absolutely. But are you allowing yourself to feel safe with you? Like, start with yourself. If somebody is listening to this and feels frustrated by it, we can do it for ourselves first. Start making yourself feel safe. Start tuning into your own body. Start listening to yourself. Start figuring out what you want. It all starts within. And that's one of these key things of being a radiant human that we were talking about. Like, it starts within. So even if you feel frustrated, like, oh, my partner's not doing that, okay, start within, start giving it to yourself, and then allow what happens and what starts to unfold, right? You'll get more in touch with yourself. At least I've noticed that in my own life.
Beautiful. Well said.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
So, speaking about sexuality and all of this, let's talk about some ways that we protect our energy throughout the day to stay focused, aligned, and on track with our highest good. And so many women, I mean, myself included, you could ask me what I wanted in life, and I wouldn't really have a clear answer. So I find that takes time with age. The more clear we get, the better boundaries we have, and all of that. So, how do you like to protect yourself throughout the day so that you can stay focused, aligned, and on track with what you're here to do and your highest good?
I give myself some breaks, even if it's stepping outside for a few minutes with my dog, or taking a break on my higher dose mat, or just taking a break for some affirmations. Maybe you cook yourself lunch. I mean, those little breaks throughout the day get me through. And when I'm in a social situation, I didn't realize I did this until a few years ago, but I've done it forever, like since high school or longer. I'll just go in the bathroom and take a break. A lot of energy swirling around can feel overwhelming. And so I give myself breaks. And now that I know I do that and I know that helps me, I'm able to give myself breaks throughout the day. And on top of that, what's your mental state when you're doing that? If you're giving yourself breaks, or if you're doing the things that you need to stay focused and aligned and on track, are you saying to yourself, oh God, I should be working right now. I'm not being productive. Like, no, we got to cut out those negative rumination thought loops and get back into the positive ones. Like, this feeds my soul. This is going to help me be a better mother. This is going to help me be a more productive person at my job. This is going to benefit all. This is for the highest good of all. This is for my highest good. Like, just start really knowing that what you're doing is for your best interest, for your higher good. So there's like a whole mental aspect. I did it the other day, like I think it was 2 days ago. I got kind of tired in the middle of the day, and I was like, I want to lay down. And I laid down for a little while. And as I was laying there, I realized that a lot of times if I'm to lay down in the middle of the day, I start beating myself up and go, oh God, I should really get up. What am I not doing right now? And instead of really being present and just maybe setting an alarm and just closing my eyes and feeling my sheets and, just enjoying the moment and giving myself that break. So for me, a lot of it is where my headspace goes in those moments that I know I need. And I'm kind of just realizing that right now. I knew that already and I'm aware of it, but as we're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah. I have to really keep my headspace in a productive and
Mm-hmm.
highest good, you know,
Mm-hmm.
arena.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love the idea of taking breaks. So I'll do this with my Organifi. It's like I need to rehydrate, make myself another beautiful, delicious, somewhat warm drink.
totally.
It
Yes. I'm going to do
definitely,
that after this. I'm going to make something like that right after this
yeah.
and eat some
I
protein and like feed myself a little bit so I know that I can tackle the next few things that I got to
Yeah,
do
and keep the
before I
stress
pick up my
down,
daughter.
the adaptogens. And the other things I always do is keep my phone on focus, airplane mode when I'm working in deep focus. So I don't get any notifications. Don't check social media while you're working throughout the day. That's a great way to be a
Smart.
huge time suck. And the other thing I do is I barely give my phone number out to people. Dave Asprey actually taught me this. So I only get calls from people I really want to get calls from. And the other
Mm,
thing that I like to do is keep communication over email so that when I'm in the state where I'm ready to communicate and put my all into client emails and lots of other things that happen as a businesswoman behind the scenes, I like to really be very clear and intentional of what I'm doing. Say I'm writing a paper, it's going to be quiet. That's going to be usually at nighttime. Taking a rest when you need it, taking a walk
hmm.
outside, getting in nature, barefoot outside. One of the best ways for me to recharge myself is to be on the higher dose PEMF Met. You guys can find that on my favorites page at rachelvarga.ca, and just being barefoot outside or getting the sunlight in my eyes. Those are
Yeah,
some of the best things that I like to do throughout the day to stay focused,
I
aligned,
love
and
it.
on track.
I'm glad you mentioned that about email too. I do try to do that too and, have specific time that I'm dedicated to that. And even with messages, I am so happy that iPhone finally got on track with like hitting something as unread, in the text message. So you can just leave it there for a dedicated time. And I do try to do that. I try to pay close attention if I'm spending a little too much time on social media. I'll tune in and catch myself, and a little voice will be like, just turn it off. And I just turn it off. And so,
Yeah. No
and then,
Apple Watches either, because that's just going to distract you. I'm not a huge fan of those things that just give you those hits of notifications. We have Elle naturally here. She
I
says, I
keep
prefer email.
yeah, I keep all notifications off, actually. All
Yeah.
I only keep text messages on my phone, so I don't get notifications from anything really.
Yeah.
Not emails, not Instagram. I People who have their phone full up with, I'm like, how do you live your life? So
It's too
that is
distracting.
definitely a hack that I use. I turn off all notifications.
So one of the things that Elle says here is she prefers email also for any business interactions. And I think this is really important so that you really can keep your work prioritized and focus on what you need to focus on in that time. And to also, in a way, train others on how to communicate with you, which is a really important way to establish clear boundaries. If you make yourself too available, give your phone number out too much, or you're always answering direct messages online, you're too available, and your energy is and your time is very valuable. Time is the one commodity we won't get back. So thank you, Elle, for chiming in here and being a part of the community to talk about how she likes to do her business interactions through email as well. Amy, do you have any closing words for us today?
My closing words are so many times we can reach outside ourselves for something that's going to give us radiance, to give us what we're searching for. We've already got it all within us. We really do. We have the capacity and the ability to tap into and create our own radiance all the time. And that's that feminine that you were talking about too, is that act of creation. And that allows us more play in our lives, that allows us more joy in our lives, more love and more space to grow. And so if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, there's all these biohacks we can do, all these products. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, just come back to yourself and remember that no matter what, you've got it already within you. It all starts right here. It is an inside out job, 100%. I speak from experience of having searched, looking for the magic pill, and there isn't one. And so, how can we really tap into our mind and our body to create our best self? And it's entirely possible, and it is accessible for absolutely anyone. And you can create that fire and that radiance and that glow at any age.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. At any age.
Yeah.
How can people find you and how can they work with you, Amy?
Everything is on amyedwards.info. I have a website too, amyedwards.com. But if you go to amyedwards.info, it's literally got links to all my social media, which I'm at Real Amy Edwards on Instagram, The Magic Babe on TikTok, and The Amy Edwards Show on Facebook. And so everything is there, including my courses, which I am so excited to offer everybody listening to your show a discount of $50 off using the code RADIANCE. So please check it out. There is a free course as well, the Ageless Mindset, so you can dip your toe in. And the Ageless Mindset has an affirmation meditation. I put that in quotes, meditation in there, because it's actually, you can do it anywhere. You don't have to have your eyes closed. You can do it in your car. And it's a say it out loud meditation of affirmations. And it's one of my favorites that I've created. And I've done voice work for so long. So I really do work to have a nice, soothing voice that is pleasurable to listen to. And I'm really, really proud of that meditation. I use it myself, and like the first time I listened back, I thought, wow, this is so good. I love it. And so that's totally free on the Ageless Mindset. It's also in the Youthfulness Hack course. So get $50 off using the code RADIANCE. And I'm so grateful to connect with everyone. If you want to DM me, if you want to work together, that is an absolute option. So hit me up. You can DM me at Real Amy Edwards on Instagram. I'm easy to find. Or you can email me, amy@amyedwards.com. And you can also sign up for my newsletter at amyedwards.com.
Wonderful. And Amy's website is
the Amy Edwards Show, of course.
Yeah.
And my podcast, you are the next guest. They come out every Thursday. And Rachel, you are the star of the show and the guest next week. So I'm so excited to get that out. So everyone will have to tune into that.
Yeah, we had a really fun conversation, and you got some new things out of me that I hadn't shared anywhere else. And
That's
Amy's website and links is in the description of this episode, so you can find it. And I also warmly invite everybody tuning in here to learn more about how I can support you on your quest to receiving the best hair, skin, nails of your life and becoming your most radiant version on the inside and out. Learn more at rachelvarga.ca and use promo code. Learn more at rachelvarga.ca and use promo code podcast15 for 15% off of a one-on-one call with me. Shop easy for all of your skincare and personal self-care needs on my e-store. If you have a question, feel free to email me info@rachelvarga.ca, and don't forget to sign up for my upcoming spring skin camp over at springskincamp.com. The tagline for this program this spring is "Don't be a lizard," and learn how to gently exfoliate and hydrate your skin so that you can show up this spring, summer looking and feeling your best, getting away with wearing less makeup as well, and just being magnetic and slow that cellular aging from the inside out. And I'll share some things behind the scenes that I'm doing for sexuality, for anti-aging, for skin that I'm not sharing anywhere else, ladies and gentlemen. So you definitely want to join the program. Thank you, Amy Edwards, for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you here. And yeah, everybody be sure to check out the Amy Edwards podcast with my episode coming out on her show as well. Thank you,
That's
Emmy.
right. Follow the show. And thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you for all you're doing in the world and helping others access that more radiant self of which there is no limit. You're just going to shine brighter and brighter and brighter every day at every age. And I am just excited to be connected with you and everyone who listened to this. Thank you so much for being here, because I believe that every time you show up for something like this, you are showing up for yourself and really putting that in motion. Like the universe is just going to come there to your aid because you're showing up. And that's so beautiful and important. So thank you again, Rachel, for having me. It was an honor.
Yeah, I love your energy. I love connecting and
Thank you.
being in community with you. The first time I saw you speak, I heard you speak, and I loved your vibe. So everybody,
Thank
meet
you.
Amy Edwards. Be sure to check her
Likewise.
out.
Thank you.
All right, we will see you all right here again on the Rachel Varga podcast.